Coming up after the break, these are the stories we're tracking. 10 years after 71 billion US dollars oil spill cleanup, scientists find oil in 91 species of fish across Gulf of Mexico. Cops wedding halted over COVID task force shut down venue. Cash-strapped GWI threatens to take customers to court over outstanding payments. Rapist disappears after being released from police custody. And armed bandits bind, beat, and rob family of 4. Stay tuned to stay informed. Oil spill at the Deepwater Horizon rink in the Gulf of Mexico. A study was conducted by marine scientists with the University of South Florida to ascertain the effect of the spill on the marine life in the area. The scientists sampled more than 2,500 individual fish, representing 91 species from 359 locations across the Gulf of Mexico. Interestingly, their study found evidence of oil exposure in all of them, including some of the most popular types of seafood. According to the study done in 2020, the highest levels were detected in yellowfin tuna, golden tilefish, and red drum. The study that was published in Nature Scientific Reports represents the first comprehensive Gulf-wide survey of oil pollution launched in response to the Deepwater Horizon spill. It was funded by a nearly 37 million US dollars grant from the independent Gulf of Mexico Research Initiative to establish the Center for Integrated Modeling and Analysis of Gulf Ecosystems, an international consortium of professors, postdoctoral scholars, and students from 19 collaborating institutions. Now let's tell you, 2 members of the Guyana police force were unable to enjoy the activities planned for their wedding after the COVID-19 task force on Saturday shut down the resort, which they selected to host the reception. Kaieteur News understands that Quincy Peters, the owner of Tropical Paradise Resort located at Baggotsville, West Bank, Demerara, was arrested and placed into custody after he not only breached his 1-month suspension of service to host the wedding, but he also breached the COVID-19 regulations. Peters is expected to be charged and placed before the court for the offense. According to the director of National COVID-19 Task Force, Colonel Nazrul Hussain, Peters was served with a notice of suspension on May 28, 2021, and despite being served, he breached the notice to host the wedding reception. Hussain explained that the task force usually grants conditional approval for weddings. That approval entails limited time for the wedding service and a limited number of persons who can attend. The task force director noted that not only was the owner breaching the suspension notice, but also no permission was ever granted by the task force for that wedding. Chief Executive Officer of Cash-Strapped Guyana Water Inc., Sheikh Bash, last Thursday stated that the collection of revenues is one of the state-owned company's biggest challenges. And while taking customers to court over outstanding payments is considered a last resort, the GWI had said that the company has no other choice but to take this course of action in order to recover the outstanding monies. The CEO made that statement during a press conference in the company's boardroom at its main office on Pleasingen Road, Georgetown. According to Baksh, there are over 174,000 customers at the database, and of that figure, a significant number of persons are not paying their water bill. To address this state of affairs, the CEO said customers who fail to pay their bills will not only be disconnected, but will also be served with a legal notice since the company is being affected by customers not paying their bills. Meanwhile, a taxi driver who is accused of taking a teenage girl to a location that she did not request and allegedly raping her has disappeared after he was released from police custody on two-station bail. According to Region 7 Commander Dion Moore, the Director of Public Prosecution, Shalimar Ali Haq, SC, had advised the police to charge the driver with rape. However, the commander explained that the suspect, who was released on station bail pending an investigation, has since disappeared. Commander Moore noted that the ranks in his district are seeking to apprehend the suspect and added that sometime during this week an update will be given on the matter. According to the police, the incident happened on the night of May 11, 2021 in Bartica Region 7. Now let's tell you, a businessman along with his wife and two daughters was robbed, bound, and beaten by 5 armed bandits yesterday morning. According to a police report, the man would usually leave his Parfait Harmony West Bank Demerara home at 3:30 hours to conduct his business in the La Penitence Market on Sundays. The businessman reportedly went downstairs to start his vehicle in an attempt to head to work, but then spotted muddy footprints in his yard. He was subsequently approached by one of the suspects, who was armed with a handgun. The bandit instructed the businessman not to move or say anything. He soon saw 4 other perpetrators entering his yard. 2 of the suspects then proceeded to tie the victim up while the others went to the upper flat and bounded the rest of the family. The businessman was then taken to the upper flat and harassed by one of the bandits as cash and valuables were demanded from him. He was gun-butted several times in the process too. His wife and 2 daughters also sustained injuries. The suspects then ransacked the house, taking with them $710,000 in cash, $500, several electronic items, some jewelry, and several other valuables. The suspects then fled from the scene with the numerous items in an unknown direction. Kaieteur Radio understands that the police were subsequently called to the scene. Checks for the suspects were made, but those efforts did not result in any arrest. An investigation is currently in progress. It is now 12 hours 19. Coming up after the break, soldier drowns in boat mishap. Sighting of COVID-19 bus causes partygoers to scatter. Driver in Kaieteur accident released on $900,000 bail, and fight for power has police force divided, says PSC member. Welcome back. The family of Barrington John, a Lance Corporal of the Guyana Defence Force, has been thrown into a state of mourning after he reportedly drowned during a boat mishap in the Aurora Creek located in the Karasabi village on Saturday morning. According to information released by GDF, at the time of the unfortunate mishap, John was among other ranks and they were departing from an observation post in the Karasabi village to another location. While attempting to cross the flooded Aurora Creek, the boat ended up capsizing with all the ranks. Kaieteur Radio learned that the boat was overloaded, which caused it to overturn. John reportedly went under the water due to the intense currents at the time and was later pulled out in an unconscious state. Immediately, he was rushed to the Karasabi District Hospital, where he was pronounced dead on arrival. His body was then taken to the hospital's mortuary, where it is awaiting a post-mortem examination. John, formerly of Paramakatoy Village in Region 8, served at the 241 Company of the No. 2 Infantry Battalion of the GDF. Now let's tell you, a video recently surfaced on social media with partygoers scattering from a bar after the COVID-19 task force bus and members of the Guyana Police Force showed up. According to the video seen by this publication, several persons could be seen running in different directions as soon as they saw the members of the task force and police ranks. A woman was first seen running down the road, and shortly after, a group of persons were rushing out of the club, running frantically and screaming while some began to take a video of them. The task force had implemented the now feared strategy in collaboration with the joint services to arrest persons who are in breach of the COVID-19 regulations. Over the past few months, hundreds of persons were arrested. The 39-year-old car driver who was involved in the Kaieteur accident, which claimed the lives of 3 persons and left 2 others hospitalized, was released on $900,000 bail after he was recently charged with 3 counts of causing death by dangerous driving. The defendant, Kevin Bissett, a member of the Guyana Fire Services, made his first court appearance in the Providence Magistrates Court before Magistrate Judy Latchman to answer to the charges. He pleaded not guilty to the charges, which alleged that on May 23rd on the Kaieteur Public Road, Susdike-Linden Highway, he drove motorcar PHH 6628 in a manner dangerous to the public, causing the death of 8-year-old Akis Jerome, 87-year-old Antonia Henry, and 40-year-old Melina Emanuels. Magistrate Latchman then placed Bezeth on bail, and the matter was adjourned to June 25, 2021. Now let's tell you at this time, member of the Police Service Commission and a retired Assistant Commissioner of Police, Clinton Conway, is of the view that the Guyana Police Force is divided because its ranks are fighting for power amongst themselves. Conway made this statement during an interview with HGTV Nightly News on Thursday evening. Conway was being interviewed by investigative journalist Travis Chase about the recent fraud charge he received alongside PSC Chairman Paul Slow and several other senior police officers, some of whom are retired while others are still serving the Guyana Police Force. It is alleged that Conway and his colleagues conspired to defraud the Guyana Police Force of over $10 million. During the interview, he was asked by Chase to share his view on the current state of the force. In response, Conway said dark clouds are hovering over the police headquarters, and it spread to the various regions as well. There is disunity in the force. The PSC member added that the force's pastor, Raymond Dooley-Chand, had prayed about the disunity and was dismissed. According to media reports, Guyana Police Force's chaplain, Dooley-Chand, made the prayer in early March of this year during the force's annual police officers conference. Dooley-Chand had said there is need for a confession of several sins in the force because of corruption, racism, disunity, fragmentation, bribery, and injustice. It is now 12 hours 25. According to Worldometer, the worldwide number of coronavirus cases is now at 171.2 million, whereas deaths are at 3.5 million, and in the case of recoveries, 153.5 million. That just about brings us to the end of our news at noon, but just before we wrap things up, let's head over to the page 7, which is dedicated to being blunt. Just when you thought you would have learned all there is to know about the evils contained in the Stabroek Block deal, further studies unearth more stomach-sickening provisions. 2 key points learned recently is that Guyana does not get a full 2% royalty on all produced and sold. And while the contract says this royalty cannot be recovered, more loopholes allow this to happen right before our eyes. Kaieteur News will show clearly in coming weeks how this is happening. In the meantime, it does make you wonder how the Ali administration can sit back and watch its people robbed blindly by a foreign entity. How can a government be so insistent on not bringing an end to rape of our resources? Who really runs this country? ExxonMobil or the PPPC? That just about brings us to the end of your news at noon. I am Kayla King, and thank you for listening.